They erase the truth of who you're really speaking to. They tell you prayer is a whisper sent upward, words carried to a sky full of gods. They tell you that if you kneel low enough, speak softly enough, believe hard enough, someone out there will hear you. But the old ways never spoke of that kind of prayer. Long before the churches, before the scripts of men replaced the language of gods, there was another way. The Norse didn't bow, they remembered. When a Viking stood before Odin, he did not ask. He offered his breath, his thought, his will, because Odin is not a god you petition, he is a god you awaken. And that's what they tried to erase. They hid the truth in stories of worship, so you would forget that every word you speak to the divine is a mirror reflecting your own fire. They wanted you to believe you were smaller than your gods, that prayer was a reaching, not a remembering, that you were the one who needed saving, not the one who carried the spark. But the truth is older. When you call the name Odin, you were not sending sound into the air. You were summoning the ancient memory within you that once knew how to see through his eye. Every prayer to the All-Father is a conversation with the part of yourself that still remembers sacrifice, wisdom, and the hunger for truth. That's why they buried it. Because if you ever remembered what prayer truly was, you would stop kneeling. You would stop asking. You would realize you were never speaking to a God above you, but to the God inside you. And before you speak, the gods are already listening. Before the first rune was carved, before the sound of a single prayer filled the air, there was silence. Not emptiness, not absence, but a silence so full it felt alive. The Norse called it Ginnungagap, the great nothing that gave birth to everything. And it is from that same silence that your words are born. But here's what they never told you. The gods do not wait for your voice. They wait for your stillness. When Odin hung upon Yggdrasil, pierced by his own spear, he did not speak. For 9 nights he said nothing, no cry, no plea, no word. And in that silence the runes revealed themselves to him, not as sounds, but as living truths rising from the void. That's the secret of prayer. Not the noise, but the space between it. The moment before your breath becomes word. That is where the gods listen. You've been told that prayer is a conversation, that you speak and they respond. But that is the lie, because prayer was never communication, it was resonance. When you are silent, truly silent, the God within you begins to hum, softly at first, like a memory returning from ages past. You feel it in your chest, in the pulse beneath your ribs. That vibration is not the world outside answering you. It is you remembering the part of yourself that never stopped listening. The old priests knew this. That's why their rituals began with stillness, with the breath held between heartbeats. They understood that before a word can reach a god, it must echo through the soul that speaks it. That silence is the bridge, the invisible thread that binds you to what cannot be seen. But they buried that truth, because silence cannot be controlled. If you learned that you could find the gods without temples, without priests, without words, what power would they have left? So they filled your mind with noise, endless chants, endless words, endless fear of being unheard, all to make you forget the one truth Odin died to remember. That the gods do not answer prayers spoken in sound. They answer the ones spoken in stillness. And when you finally learn to listen to that silence, you'll realize the gods never stopped speaking. It was you who stopped hearing. They told you the gods demanded blood, that the old altars were built on sacrifice, on flesh, on fear, on the sound of pleading voices beneath northern skies. But that was never the truth. The real offering was never spilled from a blade. It was drawn from within, quietly, with every breath that left your body. Odin knew this. When he gave his eye for wisdom, it was not pain he sought. It was awakening. He gave a piece of himself so that sight could be born within. That is the first blood ritual. Not death, but remembrance. They've hidden this from you, because if you ever understood what the breath truly meant, you would realize you've been praying every moment of your life. Each inhale, a summoning. Each exhale, an offering. Your lungs are the oldest temple ever built, the place where spirit and body meet and exchange their vows. In the old tongue, to inspire meant to breathe spirit in, and to expire meant to return it. That cycle, the drawing in and the giving back, is the true rhythm of worship. No priest, no altar, no blood spilled upon the ground. Just you, the air, and the God that breathes through you. They taught you to kneel, to lower yourself before the unseen. But the Norse way was different. They stood beneath the open sky, faces lifted to the wind, and breathed, not to please the gods, but to become them. That's what they feared you'd remember, that you were never meant to serve the divine. You were meant to embody it. When you breathe, the same air that once filled Odin's lungs moves through you. The same breath that carried Thor's roar, that filled Freya's heart with power, it is the same current flowing through your veins now. That's why they call it life force. It is not metaphor, it is inheritance. The blood in your body, the breath in your chest, they are one ritual. The crimson and the wind dancing together, keeping you halfway between mortal and eternal. Every breath you take is a reminder that you were shaped in the likeness of gods who do not ask for worship, only recognition. And here lies the secret they buried beneath centuries of noise. The gods never wanted your obedience. They wanted your remembrance. To breathe consciously is to pray without words. To live with awareness of your breath is to bleed devotion without the knife. So when you breathe again, slowly, deeply feel it. That warmth that moves through your ribs is the oldest hymn ever sung. No offering bowl, no sacrifice, no fear. Just breath, just life, just you, standing in the same silence Odin once knew, offering yourself to the mystery with every inhale and every exhale. That is the blood ritual of breath, and it never ended.
The fire doesn't hear your voice, it remembers your truth. They say fire listens, that when you speak to it, it carries your words upward to the gods who dwell beyond the clouds. But that's the lie. The fire was never meant to carry your voice anywhere. It was meant to reveal it. Long before temples rose, before the cross replaced the rune, our ancestors gathered around flame, not to beg, but to remember. The Norse called it Eldir, the sacred fire. They said each spark was born from the breath of Muspelheim, the realm of living flame, where creation itself first stirred. And in every ember that burns, a piece of that first fire still lives. That's why Odin sought wisdom in the smoke, why the Zyard witches gazed into the glow until the veil between worlds thinned. They weren't calling to gods above them. They were looking into the reflection of their own becoming. The flame doesn't judge. It doesn't demand. It only shows you what you truly are, burning, shifting, consuming, reborn. You think you feed the fire, but it is the fire that feeds you. When you speak before it, it doesn't hear your voice. It feels your intent, the weight behind your words, the truth hidden beneath them. Every spark that leaps upward carries not your prayer, but your essence. Because the gods don't live in the sky. They live in the flame that stirs when you remember who you are. They wanted you to forget that. They wanted you to believe the gods were higher, unreachable, watching from afar. Because as long as you looked upward, you would never look inward, where the real altar burns. But the flame remembers. It remembers the sound of your soul before language, before fear, before obedience. It knows your name, not the one the world gave you, but the one forged in the fire of your becoming, the name only the divine within you can speak. The old rites of fire were not prayers, they were mirrors. To stand before flame was to see yourself as the gods did, raw, endless, eternal. You are both the spark and the hand that struck it, both the flame and the one who lights it. That's the truth they hid. Because if you ever looked into that fire and saw your reflection, not your face, but your spirit, you would understand what Odin meant when he said wisdom comes through sacrifice. He wasn't speaking of blood. He was speaking of burning away everything false. The flame teaches by devouring. It takes your lies, your fears, your borrowed names, and in return, it gives you sight. It leaves nothing but what was always true. So when you next stand before a flame, don't ask it to listen. Let it remember. Because the fire does not hear your voice, it remembers your truth. And when it does, it will whisper your real name back to you.
The true altar isn't found in temples. It's buried inside you. They told you to build altars of stone, to raise them high and offer your prayers beneath the open sky, to kneel before carved gods, to whisper your devotion into the wind. But they never told you where the first altar truly stood. It wasn't made of wood or stone. It wasn't built in temples or halls of kings. It was carved into the one place no one thought to look: your shadow. When Odin hung on the world tree, he faced the darkness within himself. 9 nights of silence, 9 nights staring into the void where his reflection used to be. And there, in the blackness, beneath his own being, the runes revealed themselves. That was the first altar, the place where a god faced his own shadow and called it holy. They never wanted you to find that place, because if you did, you'd stop searching for the divine outside yourself. You'd realize every god you've ever prayed to has always been waiting behind your fear. They taught you to fear your darkness, to cleanse it, to cast it out, to pretend it was never there. But the old ones knew better. They knew that every shadow is shaped by light, that the divine hides not in purity, but in wholeness. The moment you step into your darkness, you step on to the true altar. That's what they tried to erase. Because if you ever bowed before your own shadow, you would rise from it changed, no longer a worshiper, but a mirror of the gods themselves. They could not allow that. A man who sees divinity in his own darkness cannot be controlled. So they built temples to keep you looking upward. They filled your mouth with words, your heart with guilt, and your soul with distance. They said the gods were watching you, but the truth is far older. It's you who has always been watching them from the dark reflection inside your chest. In Norse myth, when you call upon Odin, you call upon both the Allfather and the Wanderer, the light and the shadow of wisdom. He walks between worlds, between truth and illusion, reminding you that no god stands above what already breathes within. He does not ask for offerings of gold or blood. He asks for something harder, the courage to face the darkness that bears your name. Because there, hidden beneath the layers of fear and memory, is the altar you've been searching for. It's not on the mountain. It's not in the shrine. It's in the part of you that trembles when the firelight fades. When you finally kneel there, before the quiet, trembling truth of your own shadow, something happens. The voice you once thought came from the heavens answers from within, and you understand you were never praying to gods above. You were remembering the gods inside. That's why they hid it. Because the moment you find that altar, you'll never kneel again. You'll stand, not in defiance, but in awakening. For the gods do not dwell in temples of stone. They dwell in the shadows that move when you breathe. And when you finally face yours, you'll find Odin waiting there, not to judge, but to remind you who you've always been.
He answers in echoes that sound like your own voice. When you pray to Odin, do you ever wonder who is listening? Do you think his voice thunders from the clouds or whispers from somewhere closer, somewhere that has always known your name? They told you the gods speak from the heavens, that divine voices descend upon the faithful like light through a storm. But those who walked the old path knew better. Odin does not shout from above. He speaks from within. His voice does not come as sound. It arrives as thought. That quiet flicker behind your eyes, the sudden knowing that feels older than your years, that is how the Allfather answers. The poets once called it Odr, the divine inspiration, the breath of the gods moving through human minds. It was not imagination, it was communion. For the mind was never meant to be silent. It was meant to echo with the voices of eternity. When Odin gave his eye, he was not simply seeking wisdom. He was opening a passage, a channel through which thought itself could become sacred. He saw that the true temple of the gods is not built of stone, but of awareness. The mind, when awakened, is the bridge between man and God. That is why he is called the Wanderer, because he moves through thought, through dream, through the quiet corridors of your own reflection. He does not walk beside you. He walks as you, in the spaces between every choice you make. You have heard him before. Every time you stood at the edge of a decision and something deep within whispered, "This way." Every time a flash of insight struck without warning, not from logic, but from something older, truer. That was not coincidence. That was Odin answering, not with thunder, but with memory. They never wanted you to know this, because if you did, you would stop searching for signs in the sky. You would understand that the divine does not dwell in distance, but in nearness, in the pulse of your own mind. The gods are not apart from you. They awaken through you. Every thought is an echo of creation, the same power that shaped the worlds, now shaping the words inside your head. That is why your thoughts matter, because they are not simply yours. They are the remnants of an ancient dialogue, the conversation between your mortal self and your eternal self. A dialogue older than language, older than prayer, older than faith. When you think with clarity, when your mind falls into stillness, you are not alone in that silence. You are sharing it with the God who once hung upon the world tree, listening for the first whisper of wisdom. And when that whisper comes to you, soft, subtle, unmistakable, you will know the truth they never wanted you to find, that you have never been separated from the divine. You do not need to call upon Odin. He is already there, speaking in the voice that sounds most familiar, your own. So the next time your thoughts fall quiet and a single word rises from the silence, don't dismiss it. Listen. For it may not be you who is speaking. It may be the wanderer, answering, as he always has, through the echo of your own soul.
You were never meant to pray, you were meant to remember. They told you to bow, to kneel before carved gods, to lower your eyes, to whisper your worth into the dust. They told you that prayer was submission, that the gods ruled above and you were meant to serve below. But that was never the way of the North. The old faith was not about kneeling, it was about rising. When Odin hung upon Yggdrasil, he did not beg for mercy, he sought revelation. No priest guided him, no voice from the sky told him what to believe. He went alone, into pain, into stillness, into the place where the self dissolves, and there he found the runes, not written in stone, but carved into the soul of existence. And when he returned, he didn't command others to kneel. He taught them to remember. That is the truth they erased, because remembrance cannot be controlled. When you remember what you are, you stop being ruled by fear. You stop being ruled at all. They rewrote the meaning of prayer to make you forget that you were once divine. They told you the gods were apart from you, distant beings watching from above, so that you would never look inward, where they have always waited. They built walls of doctrine, crowned them with fear, and called it faith. But the gods of the North were never meant to be worshipped. They were meant to be mirrored. To pray to Odin, to Freya, to Thor is not to call to something beyond you. It is to awaken what has slept within you. The courage of Thor in your blood, the wisdom of Odin in your mind, the fire of Freya in your heart. The old gods were never far away. They were folded into your being, hidden in the breath you take and the choices you make. That's why they hid this truth, because if you remembered it, you would no longer be bound by altars or names. You would realize that you are made of the same flame that forged them, that every prayer you speak is not a plea to the heavens, it is the echo of the divine calling itself home. The runes were not meant to teach you how to beg. They were meant to remind you how to be. Each one a fragment of the self, each one a key to unlock what the gods left inside you. That is the revelation they feared you'd find, that the gods were never rulers but reflections, that every myth was written not to command your faith, but to return you to memory, to the knowing that you have always been more than flesh. You were shaped from the same mystery that carved the worlds from void. So when you lift your head in prayer, remember this: the gods do not listen from above, they awaken from within. And when they rise in you, there is no more need to kneel, because the moment you remember who you are, the prayer ends. You become the answer.
If this truth awakens something in you, don't let it fade. Like, share, and subscribe so the old wisdom can rise again. Leave a comment below. What do you think the gods were trying to make us remember? The next revelation waits in the next story. Until then, keep your eyes open and your spirit awake.